My name is Lalitaratna, yeah? And I live in Berlin now. I'm a Londoner. Great, that'll do. On Monday, it's a full moon, this Monday coming, and it's a Buddhist festival. Normally, it's a Buddhist festival around the whole world, yeah? And the festival is called the Dharma Chakra Pravartana, okay? The turning of the wheel of the Dharma. Ooh. And Dharma means the truth, the principles, the teachings, yeah, the turning of the wheel. So that's what I want to have a look at. Just to say, we are slaves to the Gregorian calendar. So in India, we'd probably be celebrating on the Monday, but we will be celebrating on the Sunday because everybody's got to work on Monday. And which is a bit of a compromise, but that's what we do. So, yeah, and if you want to come tomorrow between 11 and 4:15, you're most welcome. There'll be a really weird thing called a puja. I'm not going to explain. That's no good. So, I like festivals. What I like about festivals, I like it when it's the same old story each time, you know? It reminds you of the basics. It puts you in, well, for me, a Buddhist world. You know, the things in your head colour your existence, your universe, you know. I mean, I look at too much news, you know, on the internet, which means I've got Biden, I've got Trump, I've got all this crap, and I've decided to have this as part of my universe. Duh. You know, we do need to be somewhat informed, but it's great to have festivals which remind us that the Buddha got enlightened, what his teaching was, and the community. And those are the three main festivals of the year. Buddha Day, sometime in May, celebration of the Buddha's enlightenment. Dharma Day on Monday, the teaching of the Buddha, his teaching, Dharma, the truths, the principles. That's what Dharma means. And Sangha Day sometime in November when we celebrate the community. Very good. So, yes, and they're on full moons. We always have them on a full moon. And you can see the sense of that in a rural society. That if you ever go out on a dark night, out in the country, it is dark. I can remember using flashes of lightning to navigate one night. I was crossing fields in Cornwall, but it's black at night. It can be when there's cloud, low cloud, and there's no moon. And yeah, I've been in India a couple of times, and I was in Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha got enlightened a few years back. And even the main street in Bodh Gaya doesn't have street lights. Okay. So we're going to this puja, this strange thing over at the spot where the Buddha got enlightened. We're all moving along. And I just tell you this story for the hell of it. And there's this fella in front of me, about 50 yards ahead of me, 50 meters ahead of me, Nisota. And we're all going along in the dark, you know, occasional street lights. And Nisota disappeared. He was in front of me and he was gone. Yeah? The next thing, the poor sod was climbing out of a sewer. Yeah, the sewer runs alongside the road, and there was a paving stone missing, and he just disappeared in the sewer, completely disappeared. You know, and the next thing he's climbing out, he was fine. I didn't help him, he didn't need it, and off we went to the puja. But a full moon would have helped a lot. Yeah. So there we go. All right. Also, I remember when I was a student, a schoolboy even, I'd worked my holidays in the local mental hospital, St. Lawrence's, and when it was a full moon night, I remember the nurses warning the other nurses, saying, full moon tonight. They go, oh, cheers, thanks, yeah, yeah. Can you guess? That meant it was going to be busy. It was going to be a busy night. We can't say mental patients anymore, can we? The residents, yeah? They would all be disturbed through the night and not able to sleep. And so it was a lot of work for the nurses. And I guess this is where we have the word lunatic, not fashionable anymore. But it's to do with lunar, the moon, this Latin word, lunar. So they were affected by the moon. Okay. But also in Buddhism, we think it's a great time to actually meditate when it's a full moon. It does affect your consciousness. And according to Buddhism, it's quite helpful. Okay. I mean, we do know we're a bit more awake on a full moon night. It's harder to sleep. Great. So what I want to do today, there is a sutta. Sutta is a text, yeah, a text from the Pali Canon. I'm blinding you with science. Pali Canon. Pali is the language. It's a classical language which was used to write down Buddhism. Yeah. In fact, it was an oral tradition for about 300 years. And then King Ashoka basically said, enough, write it down. You know, because it is changing a lot, you know. And he himself, he had Ashoka columns placed all around India. And these are amazing columns. Some of them still exist, 30, 40 meters high, yeah, from the 2nd century BCE, yeah. They've been there 2,200 years. And at the top is Ashoka's wheel with 24 spokes. I won't go into that today. It represents 24 teachings in the 12 Nidans. Enough! You don't need to know. But it's interesting that this wheel is now in the middle of India's national flag. Ashoka's 24-spoke wheel is in the middle of India's national flag. Great. So, all right. And there was this sutta given. I've forgotten the name of it already. Dharma Chakra Pravartana, yeah, the turning of the wheel of the Dharma. And it's a sutta that was given by the Buddha. And basically, I'm going to have a look at that. I've simplified it a bit. There's so much repetition, I've taken whole chunks out of it where it just repeats and repeats, yeah? So what's the story? What's the story? The Buddha got enlightened. Okay? You're going to get that story on Buddha Day, not today. All right? So he's enlightened. When you're enlightened, compassion arises. It has to. Compassion's an aspect of enlightenment. It has to be there, yeah? You get wisdom, compassion, these two things come, yeah? What's the third one? Wisdom, compassion, and? Energy. Yes, there is energy. I think you're right. Thank you. Yes, yeah. Good. Yeah, it's like the 3 bodhisattvas. Have a look at it. Anyway, more science, leave it. So, compassion arises, and his first thought is, I must share what I found. And then the thought arises, it's not possible. What he has discovered is so unlikely. Enlightenment is such an odd discovery. It's not odd, it's totally natural. It's where we should all be going. But he thought, this cannot be communicated. It's too subtle. It's amazing that he found it. He said it was like a blind man on a dark night finding a priceless jewel in a heap of dung. That's how likely it is to find enlightenment. It doesn't happen, yeah? He did. Right? And he thought, how can I communicate this? He thought, I can't. So that's easy, isn't it? So he sat back and enjoyed himself. It's a nice thing, yeah? Yeah, enlightenment is the greatest bliss. Why not? Have a good time. But various sort of mythical characters appear, you know, asking him to help. Some say, for those with just a little dust on their eyes, then he has this vision of lotuses, some under the water, some above. This is humanity. He will teach. And he says, who can I teach? And he remembers his first 2 meditation teachers from about 7 years earlier. And he realizes they're both dead. Yeah, so forget them. Now, when he was practicing, before he got enlightened, he was practicing ascetic practices, self-torture, mortification of the flesh. All right? If that sounds odd, it's throughout history, you know. Religions love to do self-mortification. There's a woman, Karen Armstrong. I've read about 3 or 4 of her books. And she, in London, in my lifetime, she's a nun. Yeah? And she's having sexual difficulties, and she goes to her mother superior, says, can you help me? You know, I'm getting these sexual fantasies. She goes, try this, and gives her this lovely little box. She opens it up back in the room. It's a whip to flagellate herself with. She tries it, and she goes, it's the same as sex. Yeah? So that didn't work, you know. Yeah? Honestly, that's what she said, yeah? When she quit the nunnery, she later found a sadist, and they were happy together for years. Yeah, so there we are. But yeah. But you know, we have it. We have it in extreme sports. We have boxing. We have cage fighting. We love to hurt ourselves. You know. So okay. So there's this the Buddha practicing self mortification. He does it for years. He becomes really famous. Quite a reputation in North India. He's got 5 men with him practicing it, yeah? They're all doing it. And so one day he realizes he's come to the point of death. He has starved himself so badly. He says, if I touch my navel, I could feel my spine, you know? If I touched my back, I could feel my front. There was nothing left on him. My eyes had fallen into the back of my head. My hair was falling out. And amazingly, at Bodh Gaya, there is a cave where he meditated before he gained enlightenment. And I've crawled into it, yeah? You have to crawl in. And there's a statue of the Buddha, all ribs, sitting in there in the dark, you know, with a couple of Brahmins trying to get your money. But let that be. And they're very successful, yeah? All the Japanese tourists, blah, 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 you know. But, yeah, so he got to the point of death, and he realized not only was he dying, he'd learnt nothing of spiritual worth. It hadn't worked. You know, the idea was to mortify the flesh, and so the spirit would be free, wisdom might come. No, he just damaged himself, right? So I think it's a goat herd. She's going past. She offers him a yogurt drink, and he drinks it. Ugh, scandal in the ascetic world, you know. Ascetics daily, Buddha eats yogurt. But, but he drinks some yogurt, and his mates are so appalled, they walk out on him. They say he's gone back to the life of luxury. You know, so they're gone, and yes, he goes alone into the jungle. He remembers a time when, as a kid, he meditated quite naturally, just spontaneously. It was very pleasant, very blissful. He repeats this, he works at it, he gains enlightenment, yeah? So that's what happened. And then, so there he is, the compassion's there. Who can I teach? My first teachers are dead. The 5 ascetics, my mates. They could learn. So off he goes to find them, all right? So now I'm going to come to the text, okay? Slightly changed by me to make it a little bit more understandable, but not much. Then he set out for Benares. So this is to the city of Benares. Till at last he came to the grove where his 5 fellow ascetics were. This was the grove at Sarnath. Too many details, yeah? They saw him coming and they said, look yonder. There is Gautama, the luxury-loving fellow who gave up fasting and fell back into a life of ease and comfort, yeah? Don't speak to him or show him any respect. Let nobody go and offer to take his bowl or his robe. We'll just leave a mat there for him to sit on if he wants to. And if he does not, he can stand. Who is going to attend on a good-for-nothing ascetic like him? All right? This is the text. Yeah? I love it. Yeah? Yeah? So, but let's just say something about these 5 ascetics. They're not schmucks. These are real dudes, you know? Their names Kandanya, Badiya, Vapa, Mahanama, and Ashvajit. These fellows, their job is self-torture. You can't hurt them. They're tough. You know, they've been practicing for years doing this, yeah? You know, okay, the Buddha is their inspiration, he's their hero, but when they're not pleased, they walk out on him. You know, they're not dependent on him emotionally, they're gone, yeah? They're not schmucks, they're characters in their own rights, yeah? I just say that because I've never thought that before. until doing the research now, yeah? They're probably, they're probably the A-team or something like that. Anyway, good. All right. And so along comes Siddhartha Gautama, that's his name, yeah? Siddhartha Gautama, that's before he's enlightened. He is now called Shakyamuni. Shakya meaning the Shakya clan, and Muni meaning the wise one. He's the wise one of the Shakya clan. Sorry, too many details, but Shakyamuni is now the name of the Buddha. Okay, fine. So he's coming along. As the Buddha came nearer and nearer to the Five Ascetics, they began to notice that he had changed. There was something about him, something noble and majestic, such as they had never seen before. You see this again and again in the Pali Canon. Somebody gets enlightened, and the first thing everybody goes, he looks good. It happens again and again, you know. All right, he's radiant, his skin is clear, you know. So there we go. So, and in spite of themselves, before they knew what they were doing, the ascetics forgot all they had agreed on. One hastened forward to meet him and respectfully took his robe and bowl. Another busily prepared a seat for him, while a third hurried off and brought him water to wash his feet. After he had taken a seat, the Buddha spoke to them and said, "Listen, ascetics, I have found the way to the deathless." Now, I've never been happy with this word, the deathless. It's not a good word. The concept's fantastic, but the word's dodgy, you know? Yeah? If I came into the room, I said, "Oh, don't feel anxious." Someone would go, "What?" Now I'm anxious. Thanks a lot, you know. Yeah? Language is quite powerful, yeah? So suddenly we're thinking about death, when in fact what he's talking about is he has found a way beyond death. He's conquered death. He's conquered life and death. He's gone outside of the whole game. We cannot call it existence, but it's something outside of birth and death. But we have that word, the deathless, and I always go cringe, you know. Yeah. So the Buddha says, let me tell you, let me teach you. And if you listen and learn and practice as I tell you, very soon you will know for yourselves, not in some future life, but here and now in the present lifetime, that what I say is true. You will realize for yourself the state that is beyond all life and death. Naturally, the Five Ascetics were very astonished to hear their old companion talking like this. They'd seen him give up the hard life of fasting and consequently believed he had given up all efforts to find the truth. So initially, they simply did not believe him. Yeah. I can imagine they were even a bit rude. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I had to get a bicycle rickshaw in Bodh Gaya. I had terrible diarrhea, and my flatmate had gone off with the key. I had to get a rickshaw all the way over to the Buddhist centre, and then a rickshaw all the way back just to use the toilet, yeah? So that was me. And I took the first rickshaw I could, and the poor devil was useless. He was useless. He couldn't reach the pedals. So he's climbing from one side of the bike to the other, one side of the bike to the other, to get me, you know, about 3 or 4 kilometres. And what did all the other rickshaw drivers do? They all insulted him as they passed. Everybody stopped to insult him. I thought, wow, nice country. Sorry. But so I just wonder what these ascetics were like. I wonder what they were really like to the Buddha. Yeah, he's found the way. Well done. Yeah, yogurt. Yeah. So, but the Buddha replied, "You are mistaken, ascetics. I have not given up all effort. I am not living a life of self-indulgence, idle comfort and ease. Listen to me. I really have attained supreme knowledge and insight, and I can teach it to you so you may attain it for yourself." Finally, the 5 were willing to listen to him, and he delivered his first teaching. He advised his followers to follow the middle way. The middle way, this is important. The middle way, avoiding 2 extremes of self-indulgence and self-torture. All right? And now those who know the life of the Buddha, whatever version you hear, he comes from comfort and ease. He had a good youth. You know, it was nice. Some texts have him living in palaces. Some he's just, you know, his dad's quite wealthy. All right? Good. But he came from a luxury life and it didn't work for him. You know, he thought, what's the point of all this? Yeah? I die. Yeah? So he tried luxury, didn't work. Now he's tried asceticism. He tries it for about 6 years, becomes famous. Didn't work. So he says there is a middle way. And he found a middle way between these two extremes. All right? And then he taught the Four Noble Truths. Ooh. So I am blinding you with science here. And in case some of our regulars get a bit bored, I've decided to make it a bit interactive. What are the Four Noble Truths? Please, anyone, give me one of them. The first noble truth is, there is suffering in the world. Yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. And the Buddha goes into all the details of the suffering. You know, you're separated from the people you love. You have to work with people you hate. You know, we all know that from work sometimes. You know, we get old. It gets less comfortable. We get illness. Life hurts. Getting born, it hurts. Dying, very often, it hurts. You know, there is suffering. This is a truth. The second noble truth, what is that? There is a cause to the suffering. Fantastic. Okay, there is a cause to the suffering. Would you know what the Buddha thought the cause was?
Ignorance.
Ignorance. There's another one I'd go. It is ignorance, but one more. Craving. Yes. He thought that craving was the cause of suffering. That's his thing. All right, we shall see. But ignorance is right too, yeah? So, the third noble truth, what's that?
There's a way out of suffering.
There's a way out of suffering, or if it has a cause, it can be undone. Yeah? If it can go this way, it can go that way. Right? Good. The cause of suffering can cease. Yeah? And the fourth noble truth, what is that? The Eightfold Path. It's the actual details of how to do it. And they say it's an old medical formula, you know, that was around at the time. I heard somebody recently say it's like Ayurvedic medicine. It's still there. That you look at, somebody's lying there, you know, and the doctor comes along and says, is there an illness? You know. First of all, and he might turn to the poor wife and say, he's not ill, he's dead. Forget it, you know. Sorry about that. It's a bit brutal, yeah. So the Four Noble Truths doesn't work there, yeah. But he might look and say, he's not conscious. Was he out in the sun? Yes, he was. He's got sunstroke. Yeah? So the cause was the sun, too much sun. I suggest you put him in a dark hut and let him cool down for a bit. That's a cessation. And so the medicine is, you know, being out of the sun, blah, 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 blah. It's a formula. It's a medical formula. I think you even have it in Hamlet, when Hamlet's going, Polonius is going, Hamlet is mad. He is mad. What is the cause of his madness? He's in love with my daughter, you know. And it does look like the Four Noble Truths, you know, in Hamlet even. But it's like a sausage machine, or in German, a Fleischwurst, you know. You can put anything, well, depending on what you put in this end, you get the, you know, something come out at the end. So, Simon, are you a millionaire? You're not a millionaire. So, this is a truth. Simon is not a millionaire. Does it have a cause? Yes, you haven't planned to be a millionaire, you haven't invested, you haven't borrowed, so there is a cause. Could we change this? I think we could. This is the third noble truth. What would your Eightfold Path be to become a millionaire? Right business plan, right borrowing, right project, you know, and this whole systematic Eightfold Path of making Simon a millionaire. It works. But the Buddha looked at life and he said, life hurts. Yeah? God, that's who sang that? No, it's Love Hurts, sorry. But life hurts. That's all that's wrong with life. If we didn't hurt, it's no problem. We can all carry on like pigeons. You know. It's lovely. Pigeons, they die so peacefully. Have you ever found a pigeon that's dying? They just creep off. It's so polite, you know. Cats, the same. Cats have very polite deaths, you know. I mean, my mother was looking at a cupboard and she saw these two little feet sticking out. It was her cat. It had crept off and died so politely, you know. So there we go. Yeah. Got lost myself there, sorry. But these are the Four Noble Truths. Yeah, it's a formula. We can put anything in. And this, one of the Buddha's disciples, Sariputta, as an experiment, he sticks in happiness. There is happiness. It has a cause. You can stop it. And there's a way to stop happiness. It's just what he did. All right? Very good. So the Buddha, he told them about the Four Noble Truths, yeah? Then he told them about the Eightfold Path. God, you're getting it all today. You really are getting it all today. I have the Eightfold Path in my hand here. Yes, here I have. Sorry, a little sup of water. So how does the Eightfold Path begin? What's the first stage of the Eightfold? The Buddha taught this. It's a teaching to conquer suffering, yeah? What's the first stage of the Eightfold Path? Right view. Have you got... Yes, it is right view. It is right view. Sangha actually prefers another word, which is... Perfect vision. Lovely. The whole Buddhist world says right view. Sangha actually prefers the word vision because it's... View sounds like it's mental, where it's your whole being. Yeah, the vision. So, what comes next? All right, it's too hard a question to get it in the right order. Give me any of them. Eightfold Path, give me any of them. I mean, this is how we used to do it. To get the Eightfold Path, even order members, we said, what's the Eightfold Path? It's got right action, it's got right livelihood. And we put it all together. It takes us about 5 minutes, yeah? Then I did school visits. And all these little children, they go, oh, the Eightfold Path. That's perfect vision, perfect emotion, speech, action, lively. You know, so I had to learn the Eightfold Path in order to do school visits, yeah? So give me another Eightfold Path. Anyone? Effort, fantastic. Have I got effort here? I've got a nice effort here, lovely. So I'm going to put that down there. Good. All right, another one. Emotion, yes. He said in a slightly Caribbean accent. Good, emotion. Good, let's have 2 there. Good. So, this is the Eightfold Path. And the Buddha is, I'll go into them in a minute. Another one? Perfect speech. Thank you very much indeed. And we have speech. That's going to go here. I must remember not to swallow these. I live with a doctor and... his job for years has been taking things out of people's mouths and throats. And he said one operation, he got a whole wurst, a whole sausage out of somebody's bronchial tube, And he says he held it up in the sun. And he said, anybody said, do they want a sausage? It's uneaten. Obviously this fella drunk in a pub breathed in from one of the pub sausages. And in it went. So there we go. What else? Actually, sorry, I made you sick there, Emily. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Another one. Mindfulness, that's a good one. Mindfulness, now where's that going to go? I think it's going to come down here. Yes. Another one. Livelihood. Speech, action, livelihood, how we earn our crust. Yes, how we earn our money. And the last one's hard to get. Samadhi. Yeah, well, you'd have got it. Yeah, of course you would. I know. Fantastic. The other week we were sitting here, the two of us, getting the wrong answers to Arthur Ketu's questions, weren't we? Together, simultaneously. Because he was on one causal chain and we were on another. I won't explain. All right. So yes. So the Eightfold Path. You have a vision. The vision. This is quite strong stuff. It could be from a tragedy. It could be a broken romance. And you suddenly go, God, life's crap. It's an alternative. Yeah. Or maybe you have an amazing experience, a heavenly experience. And then it comes to an end. You think, how can I do that again? Does life offer these possibilities? This could be perfect vision. Yeah. You're getting a vision of how it could be or a vision of how badly it can be. But whatever, you are changed. You're looking for an alternative. After perfect vision, is there an alternative? I'll go through this fairly quickly, I hope. Then, all right, the emotions. You've got to work on your emotions. They've got to get positive, generous, kind, blah, blah. I'm rattling through. You don't remember this, please. All right? You can look it up on Wikipedia, whatever. Yeah? Just know that they're here, the Eightfold Path. Speech. It's got to be, I'm rattling through, unless somebody else. K2, speech. How should our speech be? Truthful! So, if somebody says, does my bum look good in this? You just tell them, yeah? You would. Whoa, you're a hard man. You're a hard man. I worked with her I was a teacher once, and we had this woman who always told the truth. And she was invaluable. That was her function. So somebody would say, does my bum look in this? And the other staff would say, oh, no, it looks all right. And then they go to her, Beryl, how's it? She goes, you look fat, you know. But that was her function, to offer the truth. What else? Truthful? Helpful. Speech has to be helpful. Yes?
Right time.
What?
Right time.
It's at the right time. It has to be at the right. And this is what the Buddha himself said. He tells the truth, but at the right time. Harmonious, yes. And yeah, that's nice. That'll do us. So you get an idea of how speech. So we train ourselves in these things. Action, basically the precepts, yes. We shouldn't kill, we shouldn't lie, blah, 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 blah. Well, we've done lying with the speech. Livelihood, how you earn your life. Now, actually, we're still working this out 2,500 years later. The Buddha said very little. He said what not to do. Yeah? He said, you can't earn your money through selling alcohol, through selling poisons. They had poison shops, you know, to kill your neighbour, yeah? Weapons, slavery, livestock. He said, you can't do these things. That's what the Buddha said, livelihood. I mean, we now have found cooperatives and things like this. Other Buddhists in America have done it. We are now developing right livelihood. It's very nice. Effort, how you make an effort, yeah? You don't do loads of meditation and then go straight down the pub. That's not really clever effort. Yeah? I needn't say any more. A little bit of wisdom here. I'm not going to hang around on it. Yes, with the effort. How you make effort. You know? Consolidate, be clever. Yeah? I'm not going to go into detail. Mindfulness. Everybody's bloody mindful today. Sorry. Just being more aware of, you know, where you put things. Yeah? Okay. Where you put your feet, what you're feeling, blah, blah, blah. Samadhi. It literally means completeness. So it's like your experience, your meditation becomes complete. It's up in the dhyanas, or it can mean enlightenment itself. Fantastic. So he gave the Eightfold Path. Doo-doo. That's it. Don't remember it. You can look it up later. Yeah? Good. So, yeah. All right. So, the Dharma Chakrapravartana Sutta. It begins with, because that was from a slightly earlier sutta, it begins, thus have I heard. When you hear these words, thus have I heard, it means that it came from one of the Buddha's cousin, Ananda, who remembered everything. Loads of them had great memories. Ananda's was genius. You know, he remembered everything that happened. And after the Buddha passed on, died, whatever, he gave these teachings to others, and they were all memorized. And for the next few hundred years, they were all handed on by mouth. People weren't literate in those days. They didn't really read or write, yeah? I'll come back to that later. It's quite interesting, okay? So, yeah, until King Ashoka said, as I said, write it down. And he built the columns. He got it written down. So, on that occasion, the Blessed One was staying at Varanasi in the game reservation at Isipatana. I thought, game reservation? That's interesting. 2,500 years ago. Woo. Leave that. There he addressed the group of 5 ascetics. There are 2 extremes. I've said that, yeah? What are the 2? He says sensual pleasure, and he says being devoted to sensual pleasure. It's all right having sensual pleasure. It's great. It's fantastic. But to be devoted to it, you're a prisoner, you know? You've got to be a little bit easy, a little bit clever. I mean, you could argue, I've heard Sangharakshita, my teacher, do it. You could see hedonism as a path of pleasure to take you up to a great state of wisdom. But you have to be clever. Your pleasures have to become finer and finer. You refine your being, yeah? So, you know, you might replace, 5 pints of beer down on the pub on a Friday night with a meal with some wine, yes? You sort of refine it. You build it all the way up. The pleasures become more and more exquisite. Yeah? And when you've been meditating for quite a while, sometimes life offers subtleties. I remember going to work one morning and just seeing this tiny pale green line on the horizon, just natural green sky in South London. That's lovely. That's really lovely. And it's like, instead of going for bigger and bigger kicks, bungee jumping, whitewater rafting, you can do it the other way around and make the organ of perception subtler and subtler and subtler. So you are seeing, what did Blake, he saw heaven in a I can't remember. Grain of sand. He saw, thank you, thanks Carol. He saw heaven in a grain of sand, So that's going the other direction. Very nice. So you could see a path of refined hedonism as a genuine path. But the Buddha wasn't saying that. He was saying, watch out for the extremes, yeah? Don't be devoted to them. And don't be devoted to self-torture, yeah? Which must have been a bit shocking for his companion. That's our job, But there we go. All right. Then he goes through the Four Noble Truths, which we've done. He goes through the Eightfold Path, which we've done. And then he looks at all the ways of analysing things. The First Noble Truth of suffering, we look at it as a fact. We look at it as a task to be achieved, to see that it's suffering. We look at are we successful in doing it? These 3 stages of looking at it. And they call this a wheel. And maybe that's where the title of the text came from, the wheel of the Dharma. Going through all these wheels. Not very interesting. We move on. Just a little technicality there, yeah? So, okay. So he's giving all this. That is what the Blessed One said. Gratified, the 5 ascetics delighted in his words. And while this explanation was being given, there arose in the Venerable Kandanya the dustless, stainless Dharma eye. Suddenly, he could see in a spiritual way. He saw that whatever is subject to origination, whatever can start, can also cease. Yeah? And as this happened, he gained enlightenment. And suddenly, the Buddha, for the first time, has seen it can be taught. He didn't know that. Yeah? I'm sure he didn't. Why, I suspect, I read these texts like Sherlock Holmes. I stick my pipe in, my deer stalker, and I look for evidence round the corners, and, and when the Blessed One, and this is what he says, had set the wheel of the Dharma in motion, the earth devas cried out. These are all the little gods. We would say angels, yeah? It's interesting, angels pop up in all of the religions. Judaism, Islam, Christianity, they're devas in Buddhism, devas in Hinduism. It's like subtler beings floating around. Okay, lovely. All right, believe it or not. So, actually at Bodh Gaya, I went there and I went into the Thai temple and my meditation was suddenly really easy. Really easy. I went, this is nice. I'm not doing anything and I'm having great meditations. And then every meditation afterwards was fantastic. Yeah? It was like a free ride. I was there for about 10 days getting a free ride in meditation. And as I left Bodh Gaya, it stopped. We went up to Delhi and it stopped. I thought, what was that? I said, it was like fairies were carrying me. I thought, not fairies, they were devas. I can't see them, but you can feel, you can sense them. And I mentioned this to my teacher, Sangha, actually. He said, oh, yes, he had a similar experience at Bodh Gaya, yeah, of the devas. And they say this, that where people meditate, the devas like to congregate, yeah. They love people who meditate. It's nice, good. So the devas, and I'm going to give you the text, yeah. The Blessed One has set in motion the unexcelled wheel of Dharma that cannot be stopped by Brahman, or contemplative, Deva, Mara, or God. Nobody can stop this teaching. On hearing this, the earth Devas cry, the wheel has been set in motion. The Devas of the 4 kings took up the cry. The Devas of the 33, they took up the cry. The Yama Devas, the Tusita Devas, the Nimanarati Devas, the Paranimitta Vasavati Devas, the Devas of Brahma's retinue, took up the cry at Varanasi. In the game reservation at Isipatana, the Blessed One has set in motion the unexcelled wheel of Dharma that cannot be stopped by Brahman or contemplative. And on it goes. And as this all happened, this 10,000-fold cosmos shivered and quivered and quaked, and a great radiance appeared in the cosmos. God. Eat your heart out, Spielberg. This is how to tell a tale, isn't it? Yeah? Right. And then the Blessed One. And this to me shows that the Buddha still had emotions. We think he's passionless. No way. He's a Buddha, but he has passions, because he then says, Kandanya knows. Kandanya knows. And from now on, he will be named Anya Kandanya, Kandanya who knows. So he's got a new name. And I think that's a little sign of passion on the part of the Buddha. So, very good. All right, crazy now. I'm on a little bit of a Lalitaratna holiday. I want to talk about wheels, okay? The wheel. The wheel has been turned, yeah? What's going on there? Well, to me, what's cool today, Oh, you use an iPhone, do you? I'm still with whatever, We've got all our modern technology and this, that, and the other, and things are cool and things are not cool. Android is probably not as cool as Apple, blah, blah, blah. Boring, yeah? Back then, the great breakthrough in technology was the wheel. The wheel was amazing. Imagine that before the wheel. You had to drag everything everywhere, Yeah? Yeah. They must have, Stonehenge, they believe, because the rocks came from Wales all the way to Somerset, yeah? They think they put them on rollers. So there's an idea of a wheel there, rolling them, how far is it? Oh, only about another 100 miles. Oh, great. All right, keep going. So they pushed these huge rocks all the way to Somerset. Yeah. So we have the wheel. And the early wheels came around 6,000 years ago. I've been doing my Wikipedia stuff, yeah? 6,000 years ago, the Sumerians invented the wheel, making great stone wheels. And later on, they hollowed them out a bit lighter. All right? I would like to say it was a revolution, but that's a bit of a bad pun, So, the wheel was a revolution. Forget it. All right. So, Then I think the wheel was made from slices of a tree trunk. So it's round, but a bit bumpy and not very strong. And then eventually they start making wheels out of planks of wood, this way and that way, and then backing them up on the back and cutting it round. I think it's the Celts who eventually stuck an iron rim around it to hold it all together. You put it on red hot and it pulls it all in tight. And suddenly the wheel is there. With the wheel comes wagons. Comes war chariots. Suddenly, you can go into battle on a war chariot, standing there while your driver's doing the old horses, and you're just firing spears into the poor enemy, yeah? It is a revolution. Farming, you'd have the pulley, pulling water out of a well. You'd have possibly windmills. You'd have water being drawn up from the river by wheels, yes? It is amazing. But also, if you go to the Neues Museum, you'll see these marvellous little models from 3,500 years ago from Egypt. They are great. There's a little brewery, there's a little bakery, and you see this woman on her knees, and she's grinding corn, yeah? It's all about this big, it's tiny, it's beautiful, down in the cellar of the Neues Museum. And she's grinding corn. She's got one stone here and a flat stone here, and she's grinding like this, yeah? You can see the little pile of ground corn. the wheel comes. Suddenly, you've got round stones, yeah? Two of them, one on top of the other, one with a hole in the middle. Pour it in, a handle goes into this hole. It's much better. You get a revolution in kitchen technology. Did you ever make pots at school? You make a big snake out of clay, you know, and then you sort of wind it round and make a... It's one of the most unsatisfying, ugly things you'll have made in your life. A coil pot is horrible, yeah? It's probably from some poor student teacher coming in, you know, oh, we're going to do coil pots today, fantastic, you know. So, yeah, but the wheel comes and suddenly they're making the most elegant pots for the first time in history. Vases, huge vases, all on a wheel. The wheel, it's a revolution, yeah? And so suddenly the Buddha, he's pretty good at PR. And he thinks, what's really cool, yeah? Maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was others who added the name. But the wheel of the Dharma, that sounds cool, yeah? Now, sorry, a little indulgent story here. Have you ever just avoided a catastrophe? A catastrophe should have happened. You did something, you made a mistake. It was a huge mistake. It was an appalling mistake. People's lives may have been endangered. They weren't. It didn't happen. There wasn't a catastrophe. But you're traumatized for years afterwards, you know, what could have happened. Can have people, little show of, has anybody had this experience? Dharma, you've had it, yeah? I won't go into details, yeah? But when I used to go with students at Easter to the Lake District in north of England, and there's mountains, there's lakes, it's very beautiful. We went in a short-based Land Rover, and we drove up, we went up through the campsite, yeah, and we didn't stop at the campsite. We started going up the mountain, and then with a Land Rover, they got a second gear stick, yeah. And you stop the car, and you boom, 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 change the second gear stick, and suddenly your 4 gears are now 4 lower gears. Amazing. So it's like you've got an 8-gear Land Rover, yeah? But you have to stop and go into the lower one, and then up you go. And you're climbing a mountain in a Land Rover. You're leaning back, and up you go. It's amazing. And then we get to a plateau on the top, and there we are. This is where we made our camp each year. And you can see the lakes, you can see the mountains, you're alone. It's beautiful. And I don't know if it was me who did it. I can't remember. Maybe I'm so guilty I won't remember. But unloading the Land Rover, the last thing to come out was the spare wheel, and sort of tossed out. It's a spare wheel. It's got highly compressed air in it. It must have bounced. Yeah? The next thing I know, it's somehow standing up. And it just rolls over the edge of this plateau. It's about 50 kilograms. Yeah, it's iron and hard rubber. And I'm chasing it down the hill. It's off. It's away. Through the campsite. Yeah, it didn't touch anything. At some point, it hit a little hillock, and it was so fast, it took off in the air, it cleared a wall, it cleared a whole roadway, cleared the next wall, and came down and disappeared in a forest. Yeah? Nobody was touched. Nobody knew it happened. I lost sleep for a long time. Yeah? It's a terribly bad thing that didn't happen, okay? But it still gave me nightmares, yeah? Now, just imagine, how many times has that accident happened in history, you know? A bloody ox cart with these huge wooden wheels, about 1/4 of a ton each, you know, trying to get it off and, oh, careful. Ooh, it's going down the village. I didn't know the village was on a slope. Yeah, boom. How many were killed? I don't know. But now you just get the feeling of the wheel, yeah? And the Buddha says about this wheel, when he got the wheel of the Dharma going, it cannot be stopped. Yeah? And I know just in science, if you had a perfectly flat surface and a perfect wheel, even a baby, even if it weighed a ton, a baby could make some impression on it, yeah? But whatever energy, and what is interesting, this Dharma Chakra Pravartana, translated as turning of the wheel of the law, I looked up this word Pravartana. In no translation did it say turning. It said inducing. You don't turn a wheel, you push it, don't you? If you think about it, there's a big wheel. Should we turn the wheel? No, let's push it, you know? So we push it, and that's what all the meanings were. Whatever energy you put into that wheel, it's in there. It's moving. Now you try and stop it, it'll crush you. Yeah? So this is and basically I'm realizing that to understand the Buddha, he uses lots of similes, yeah, lots of metaphors, and we don't understand the metaphors well enough. Anyway, all right, maybe I went on too long, sorry. Physics teacher, I love this crap, yeah? Good, it's true. So there we go, all right. So we've heard all this. Yeah, there's the Buddha, you know, at the Sarnath, you know, and the animal reservation. He gives this thing, Four Noble Truths, you know, middle way, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. Kandanya gets it. Do you believe it? I don't. And I was looking up, we've got a man called Divan who studied the Pali Canon for years. He doesn't believe it either, you know. It's too good. It's too good. Now just imagine this. I believe the bit you went to the Five Ascetics, it has to be compassion, who's going to learn, and they did learn. All five became enlightened. That's amazing, yeah? All five got it in the end, yeah? They lived together. And what I imagine the Buddha was teaching is not the Eightfold Path. Why is he going to teach the Eightfold Path? Oh, and by the way, right livelihood. You're not allowed to run a pub. Oh, really? I can't run a pub, but my parents did. No, pub is out, yeah? He's not going to teach that, you know. He's going to say, whatever comes into being can cease. This is what he's going to teach. And the clue comes much later. One of the five, Ashvajit, he's wandering, we don't know how much longer, later, months, years, he's wandering along, and some young dude, Sariputta, sees him, and he goes, he looks good. And he goes up to him, he says, what is your teaching? Who is your teacher? And Ashvajit, I think he's a bit sick of people asking him, yeah? So he plays dumb. He says, I am but new to the teaching. He's an enlightened being. Yeah, he's an arahat. He's enlightened. He did it, you know. I am but new to the teaching. He says, well, and Sariputta says, well, yeah, just give me a bit of it. Doesn't matter if it's, he says, doesn't matter if it's long or short, just give me some. And he says, my teacher teaches that those things which have an origin, he has seen their rising and their fall. And Sariputta immediately becomes irreversibly on the path to enlightenment when he hears these words. Later on he becomes an arahat, becomes one of the Buddha's chief disciples, yeah? But the fact that Ashvajit came with just these words, I think this is what they talked about. Not all this Eightfold Path, Four Noble Truth stuff, you know? But what I do think, I'm not going to knock it, because what I think is, this little text, they didn't read or write. Yeah, they didn't have iPhones to make notes on. They couldn't record it. So they had these little compact suttas, these little sayings. And this is such a good one. It's, what do they call it? A mnemonic? What's it? Eselbrücke? It's a teaching method. You've suddenly gathered all of the good teachings into one little learnable lump. It's got a bit of drama in there with Kandanya seeing. Kandanya, who knows? It's dramatic. They don't like the Buddha. They open up. We've got the middle way. We've got the Four Noble Truths. We've got the Eightfold Path. We've banged the whole of what we need into one little packet. You can stick it in your pocket. You've got the Dharma. I think that's what happened. And they're not really too bothered about historic events. I need to know what really happened. So my old nose, my Sherlock Holmes going, no, it didn't happen. That's horrible, you know. It was probably just, he teaches the arising of things and their cessation. So that's how I think it was. And it is time, really. But what to say, this is such a subtle teaching. And is this useful to us? Basically, I'll try and say it very quickly. Reality's okay with things. It doesn't care, you know. Our cats, they die politely. they go off into a little cat bardo state. They see other cats. What does the song say? Fornicating in the... Anyway, it doesn't matter. There's a song about cats. It's fornicating. And in they come, get reborn. You know, they come back as little cats. They grow older, have sex, die. The pigeons, us, we're all in this process, this endless process. And reality is quite happy with that. We're all doing it, coming into being, going out, coming into being. It's subtle. It's not just things. I mean, this glass came into being, yeah? It came from sand. It came from fire. It came from a press. It came from a shop, you know. There's so many things to get this glass, you know. Tarapata went and got it from the kitchen for me, didn't you? Yeah? Was it you? Oh, somebody else did. Thank you for the drink. Who was that? Cheers. Anonymous Bodhisattva. Good. But things come into being. Things go out. It's mental too. The baby is crying. Yeah? Why is the baby crying? The mums are good with babies. They're brilliant. It's their job. You know, they take the baby. It's crying. She sticks her little finger in its mouth. It's hungry. Ah, all right, we know what to do. Or it's not hungry, smells the other end, needs a change. Yes? Yeah? So, very good. Is this fair? Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at a mum over here. Yeah. Or, you know, it's still crying. Maybe it's tired, yeah? And I think there's something a bit of fun here. Basically, this is where men go wrong. You know, the mother has taken total responsibility for the communication, and men think that's going to carry on for the rest of their lives. You know, they cry and the woman has to guess what it is. Sorry. All right. But, yeah. But, you know, the baby's crying. There's conditions. There's underlying conditions that led to this. We clean it, we powder it, we dry it, we feed it, and the baby laughs. That laugh had underlying conditions, yeah? Everything, mental states. Are we a bit happier today after the meditation? Did that work? Do we have more pleasant states here? What did we do? So our whole world, we're supplying conditions that produce results. This is what we do. There's more to say, but the bugger of it all is we are limited. Though reality is happy with everything being processed everywhere without exception, we come and go, no, I'm real. I'm everlasting and I'm the most important creature on the planet. Yeah? And it's egotism. Yeah? And it's a bummer. It's a very useful little program to have in your head. It makes you run away from tigers and it makes you chase rabbits. It's very good. We survive, yeah? But later on, it holds us back. And we need to realize, ultimately, we don't need this sense of self. We can go beyond it. And those are the higher realms of the spiritual life. It's all still there, you know. The tiny little smell of it I caught once was the wallpaper's still there. The whole room's there. But somebody turned off the bloody radio after all these years. This noise that's been going on in our head for all of our lives. Shall I have a cup of tea? No, I won't have a cup of tea. No, I'll get a cup of tea at the Buddhist centre. Yeah. Oh, so-and-so, he's going to be there. Oh, I don't like him. Yeah. And somebody turns off the radio. And that's very, very nice. That'll do. Thank you very much. Good.